All right, so what if you had an unlimited budget for the ultimate setup? Well, that's what we're going to get into today in the lab. We're going to try and figure out what the ultimate streaming setup could be right now. All right, so quick disclaimer, this is not a sponsored video. Any of the products I mentioned here just happen to be included because they fit into the build or worked with it. And I'm sure you could go even higher than what I say in here. This system is designed around, say, a variety streamer who values resolution and quality above everything else. All right, the first part we're going to talk about here is the whole computer setup. Now, of course, we're going to need to do a 2 PC streaming setup. So the goal here is to have an 8K gaming PC and an 8K streaming PC. So on the gaming side, it's pretty straightforward. You know, AMD 5950X, 3090 GPU, you know, maybe 2 terabytes hard drive, 32 gigabytes of fast RAM. You get all that together and, you know, you output it into some 8K monitors, get some really nice monitors because you want to be able to play on this and enjoy it. Now the streaming side gets a bit more tricky. So there's actually 8K capture cards. Now, unfortunately, these capture cards only take in 8K SDI signals, and there's no way to convert HDMI to SDI in 8K yet. So the output of the gaming PC is going to be 4K, and we'll talk about the camera a little bit later. But we need to have the PCIe slots and the lanes to handle these 8K capture cards, especially multiple of them, because we're going to have an 8K camera and the gameplay capture. So in that sense, what we're going to do is we're going to need to get a Threadripper based system. So a 3990X is going to be the system build, and of course another 3090, and then we want a really huge hard drive because maybe you want to record this in 8K or 4K. And so, you know, 4 terabyte at 2 terabyte. So these two things together are what we're going to primarily use as our streaming PC and our gaming PC. All right, next up, let's talk about the camera, the face cam. So of course, since we have the 8K SDI capture, we need a camera that can output this. So right now, probably the best camera for this is the Blackmagic 12K camera. It has an SDI output that can output the 8K image, and it's a Blackmagic capture card, so they should kind of work pretty well together. Now, this is a super 35 millimeter sensor, so it's gonna have a bit of a crop factor on whatever lens you put on it. The thing is though, is that there's no autofocus with this, so we might as well get a super fancy cinema lens. So we'll get the Tokina Cinevista Prime lenses. These can handle up to 8K resolution. And we're gonna have to put a wireless follow focus on it. So you're probably gonna wanna keep the aperture to around f4, f5.6. I mean, if you're hypothetically buying this, but you wanna keep it pretty open because you don't wanna be going in and out of focus because you'll have to use a little wheel or knob to keep yourself in focus. And that brings us to the next thing, which is the lighting. All right, so in your standard setup, you probably don't have a lot of space to put a bunch of lighting around the place, but this is not so standard. So we're gonna use an Aries sky panel as the key light, super soft light, and then we're gonna use a variety of quasar rainbows to be like the rim light and the fill light. And since we wanna make this, you know, just all controllable from maybe just an iPad or one device, we'll use a Ratpack AKS, and this will connect to the lights wirelessly. You'll probably need a Centena to actually put on the sky panel, and you know, everything can remote. You can change effects, do different things, like have things going on in the background, and that'll be our lighting setup. All right, so the next part is the audio setup. So there's 2 parts of this. So in the first part, we'll talk about, you know, the audio input, which is your microphone. Now, because this is such a crazy setup and there's so many different pieces of equipment going on, it's probably gonna create a lot of noise. So you don't want a microphone that's gonna pick up that noise, because you can get really fancy condenser microphones, but they're gonna pick up the sound. They're gonna perform best in a professional sound treated room. So in this case, the dynamic microphones and the classics are the best. So the Shure SM7B, Electro Voice RE20, and these are gonna have a cloud lifter, and they're gonna go into an audio interface. Now the audio interface you can get really fancy with. So we're gonna go with the RME UCX Fireface interface. It's a really high-end interface. And next, let's talk about how you're actually gonna hear the sound. All right, so the next part is how you hear the audio. And hearing the audio means that you want really pristine audio headphones that will give you a lot of information. So, you know, hi-fi headphones that will tell you, you know, where the enemy position is and be comfortable and have good audio quality. So I think probably the best all around, all things considered, is the Sennheiser 800S. So these are really lightweight. They have amazing soundstage, so you'll know where everything's coming from. You can also go with the Hi-Fi Man Aria. They're pretty much the same, just a bit more tuned to, you know, music listening rather than the Sennheisers, which are basically reference headphones. So you'll need a really good amp to power these. And since there's kind of a lot of equipment piling up here, we're actually gonna go with the combination DAC and amp. So this is the Matrix Audio Elements M. It's a really high-end combo DAC amp. I might have messed up the name there, but it'll definitely be able to power the Sennheiser headset. All right, so why not put the finishing touches on this? So you probably want a custom keyboard. So the GMMK Pro is a keyboard that you can buy and customize however you like, and you can spend another small fortune on that. Definitely want to get a Stream Deck so you can control everything and switch to all your scenes and do a bunch of crazy effects. Honestly, you could actually probably just do that with the iPad Pro. But all in all said, give or take shipping and handling and where you live, it'll probably cost you around $30,000 US to build this setup. But if you're one of those crazy people in the comments, let me know if you made this build and, you know, if you got it working, or show me your insane ultra HD super high-end streaming or recording or content creation build in the comments. I really want to see it. But how are we going to set all this up? So I've done other videos about how two PC streaming setups work, but the gist is basically the output of the gaming PC gets captured by the streaming PC. So you'll have to convert the HDMI to SDI, and you'll need to make sure that it can handle 4K. The camera you plug straight in. The DAC amp will probably be connected to the gaming PC, and the microphone will be connected to the streaming PC. You can also connect it to the gaming PC if you want to use it for Discord or something, but it really depends on how much you want to route your audio. Now, you're probably thinking, like, why does 4K, 8K matter? Well, surprisingly, YouTube actually allows 4K streaming, and I'm sure some other sites are going to pick it up soon too. So in XSplit, you can actually set the resolution to 4K, and you're probably thinking, okay, well, what about the 8K source? Well, you still want to bring it in as 8K because that extra resolution will make it a bit sharper when you downscale it and output it. So set up all your capture sources, make sure your audio is being routed, and then set up your encoding settings. And this is where you're going to use the crazy Threadripper to the max. Use X64, set it to slow, and throw all the bitrate your internet connection can have at it, and you should have a pretty crispy 4K stream. Maybe if you're the one that built this, you're the only one in the world that has it, but it should look pretty amazing if you have your lighting and audio and everything set up. I think I forgot to mention, you should also get some VSTs, FabFilter VSTs, you know, to put EQ and compression and all those sweetening effects on your voice to make it the most insane looking PC setup ever. And that's not even considering like things like power conditioners and things to make sure you have clean electrical. It can really just go crazy. So sadly, the XSplit content team does not quite yet have the budgets to build these builds for fun. Maybe some super crazy tech YouTuber will put one together. But you know what? You can always help the channel. Maybe we can get to that goal soon. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. Let us know, like, what is your dream streaming setup? Like, what kind of wild and crazy setup do you want to build? What's the craziest streaming setup you've seen from another streamer? Again, let me know in the comments, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for joining us in the lab.